All right, everybody, back with another one. Today, we're going to take a look at something that's a follow-up of what I spoke about on my last episode, which is AI and robots. Now, I've talked about on the last episode, current state of AI definitely making a huge impact in the, you know, uh, world overall, but in the business world, a lot of businesses are beginning to adopt it at a very fast pace. I talked about how it's changing the landscape for search engines and how people will be, no longer Googling the way that we used to, but instead, and it's already begun, but not that many people have adopted it yet because there's always a innovation curve. So you'll always have people who adopt things early. Those are the people who get in at the ground level. And then slowly but surely, you'll get more and more people to adopt that new technology until eventually you hit a tipping point. Overall, it definitely takes like 10 to 20 years for anything to typically be widely accepted because a lot of people want to see that things stand the test of the market and the test of time. To actually see if it's a thing before they waste their time and energy on it, and that's completely understandable. Some people are excited about new technology. Those are the people that you'll see standing online outside the Apple store when the iPhone first came out, and they're waiting there for something that they've never even couldn't begin to imagine what it is, but they were excited because they were sold the idea of it, and it was enough to get them to wait online for hours. So, those are the early adopters. Those are the people who go in and really make the company what it becomes. Because if it wasn't for them, no company would take off. But there are, still many people that have not bought into the whole AI thing, or they just find it too complicated. They're not ready yet to get to that point where they're integrating it into their businesses and also their lives. But it is actually becoming more and more common to have AI in use in so many different aspects. And one of the biggest ones is social media today. We're going to take a look at some of that stuff where we see just how crazy things have gotten with AI in this particular, I guess, genre of the internet, I guess I would say. And it's becoming a sort of like a subculture where there's definitely like categories now to, I guess you could say, life in a way, because social media is really a reflection of life. You can see like there's different types of industries in the world, but also sort of divided up on the internet. You'll basically have like groups of people that identify with that philosophy and identify as like part of that group. A really good example of that is the biohacking group of people who are super into health, but they take it to the next level where they're, using their bodies as like human guinea pigs and testing out these theories, these new cutting edge, ideas, or maybe some stuff that has been done forever, but we're bringing back. And that's like a whole subculture of people that are, identify as biohackers. And you'll have people on the internet who are really into politics or really into technology, and the list goes on. So, even like foodies, like people who love food, there's a whole genre of, food stuff on the internet, and people who have become really, famous and successful for having, Instagrams or whatever, just doing food stuff. So there's a lot of different subcultures on the internet, and there's a lot of people that are now integrating AI into their businesses in many different capacities. And we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at what's going on with the dating market today, what's going on with, I definitely don't envy the single people today, whether you're young or older. It definitely seems like a very difficult market to date in, and I see that there's a lot of people that are on these dating apps today, and it's so foreign to me because I've never been on one. The closest thing was when I was growing up, we used MySpace to connect with people, and then Facebook shortly after that, to connect with people that you either knew from school or just people that maybe came across their profile and wanted to strike up a conversation and, you know, maybe meet them in person if they live near you. That was about it. And that was all there were dating apps back then, but they were totally different. You used to have to go to an office, you used to have to, sit down with your, I guess, dating coach or something and create an account with them and, you know, it would cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. It was a lot different. I think like some of the earlier companies like eHarmony, if that's still around, and some other ones, they were big back in the day in the early 2000s when the dating stuff, really started merging with technology and becoming a thing. But the dating apps today seem insane to me. And it's because it's so foreign because I don't really understand that. I understand going out and meeting people in person or, being younger at that time, meeting people in school and, meeting people in after school activities and things like that. Just in person connection, not online. So that stuff seems foreign to me, but I hear and see a lot of people on the internet, especially the younger people, Gen Z in their 20s, complaining about how it's so difficult to date today when you would think technology would have made it easier because now you can not only speak to more people at a quicker pace, spread all throughout the, country, world, whatever. You can also, you have like algorithms that will match you with that person based on personality and make it easier for you to find connections that seem like they're a fit based on a, you know, checklist of things that you want and they want. And for some reason, the youth is actually having a harder time dating. And this actually rolls into marriage too, because you're having a lot of younger people and some older people too, some millennials now that are in their 30s and 40s. And then you do have the occasional Gen Xer that's in their 40s and even 50s. And some of those people are, maybe divorced or just been single their whole life. And the whole expectations of marriage have changed. And this is a huge part of the problem as to why a lot of these relationships are not working out. I keep seeing a lot of people on the internet saying that all the good, the girls will say we're all the good men, or the men will say they've given up on women. And it's this weird dance of how nobody wants to either make the first move or compromise and be a version of themselves that is also able to tailor their personality traits, actions, things like that to the person that they're with if they want to commit and have a life with them long term. And so I see there's a lot of issues that the older generations didn't used to have. Now, obviously, technology and everything makes life a lot more complicated and different today. And people didn't have as much access to things back then as they do today. So it's a little different, but that's the problem too with quantity. Quality is always better than quantity. And when you have an abundance of something, it really doesn't make things better. It makes it worse because you're either overstimulated or you have too many choices and it can be overwhelming. And then you get analysis paralysis and it's hard to make a decision. And you'll see this with two different things. You'll see this with if you've ever been to a restaurant where they have 1,000 items on the menu, most people will just get the most basic, simple thing because it's a comfort zone for them. They know that's a staple. They know that it's something that they like pretty much anywhere they go. And the menu has just too many options for them. They're overwhelmed, so they go with a safe choice. Maybe somebody sees like 1,000 items on the menu and they order a burger with fries. That's a very basic thing to get with a menu that big, but it's a safe choice because it's something you can get pretty much anywhere in mostly in America and feel comfortable with that choice. Same thing goes for online streaming apps. Look at Netflix. Thousands of shows and movies. And most people will typically just, watch what the general public says is the most interesting thing right now, their friends and family, recommendations, word of mouth, or they'll pick from that top 10 trending list that's a category on there because they know that's what everybody else is watching. So it makes them feel comfortable and they know maybe they'll have something to talk about with other people. And a lot of times they don't even scroll past a certain amount of, levels down the list to a lot of the other options that's on there because it's just too much to choose from. So the quantity thing is not always a good thing. And you look at the older generations, not the boomers, but the people older than them, the silent generation, and even before them, the greatest generation, a lot of them had marriages that lasted their entire lifetime. And many of those people got married very young in their teens or early 20s. So they had a significantly long amount of years with that person. It's not like they got married at 40 and then, died at 80 and spent 40 years with them. Some of those people got married at 18 and were married until they were like 80. It's a long time to be with somebody, and it's the majority of your life, even longer than your life was without that person. So, how did it work for so long for many of these people? Well, there's many different factors, but a lot of it was morals and values, was the things that they decided they held more important in their lives, and also not getting caught up in the shiny object of, you know, going after the next girl, or going and seeing, this relationship's not working out and everything's not going my way right away. So I quit and I'm going to go on to the next thing because I'm going to keep searching for perfection and keep searching for getting exactly what I want, getting all the boxes on my list checked off, and having this like person that is a creation almost, rather than a real human being that you can find a connection with and you can both grow together, which is how relationships always were before the internet, before dating, online dating and match dating. And that's pretty much what it is today. You have a lot of these young people that are, matching up, but they're matching up on a checklist of what they want in another person, or checking off their interests and hobbies and getting aligned with somebody who's similar to them. And sometimes it works, but a lot of the time it doesn't, because that's also not realistic, you know? And sometimes opposites attract, sometimes similarities attract, but the most important thing is you have to have that actual connection in person in order for you to know if that's a fit or not. And sometimes people are in relationships where there are so many things that they don't align with the other person on, but for some reason they have a great relationship. It just works. That being said, we're going to take a look at some relationship stuff today just to sort of see where this is going, and then I'll add my point of view on where the future is for a lot of this stuff if things don't change with both men and women in terms of how they approach dating and especially marriage. So first we're going to take a look at some stuff with AI, because I want people to understand that, especially there are a lot of people out there that, maybe think AI, they know that it's here, they know that it's coming, just like about, cryptocurrency, but they don't know how big of an impact it's making on the world, and just how much is going on, how many opportunities are opening up. Also, if you're a person that's looking for a job in AI, I'm going to show you something in a minute that might, help you, but we're going to look at this stuff. And we're also going to look at some videos of AI created videos that are about a very specific category of the internet, I guess you could say. And then we'll get into the dating stuff. So let's take a look at this now. So here is just a general job search on Indeed, one of the biggest job search companies for New York, because New York is one of the top cities in the United States. So I figured I would kind of go there. But there are jobs for this industry all across the country and the world. But you literally just type in AI and you get so many jobs. I mean, it even says 4,000 plus jobs in this category. So we'll take a look at some of these. A proofreader, AI trainer, AI software engineer. And some of these jobs pay well. AI researcher, polymatic AI junior research scientist, AI video creator, AI investing, AI analyst, editorial operations manager. There's so many jobs on here, particularly in the AI field. So let's take a quick look at AI video creator and see what some of the stuff that they're doing is. So this one actually pays pretty well, and it's hybrid. You should work half in the office, half remote, which is pretty good for that amount of money. Video content, generative media in luxury, fashion, and beauty. And they tell you the apps to use: Midjourney, Runway, ML, Sora, Pika, Kling AI. There are tons of apps now for AI that, more and more every week. It's like there's a new app for AI that allows you to do something, you know, that we've never been able to do before. with one single, click of a button or one app. It's all packaged all into one app. Take a look at this one, AI investing. This one pays almost 250,000 a year. That's a great salary. These are all the benefits. Part of a 2-year associate program. Conduct industry research, search potential investment opportunities, due diligence, all that stuff. All right. Learn about new technologies. So they're basically looking for somebody to help them figure out how to integrate AI into their investing company, is sort of what I gather from that. But now let's take a look at one of these learning jobs, because that's really, we are looking for a proofreader to join our team to teach AI chatbots. That's the thing too. Like, I don't think a lot of people know. They think that AI is just, you know, figuring all this stuff out by connecting to the internet and learning everything that's already on the internet. There's a lot of people that are manually training these AI machines, these AI software and programs, correcting little mistakes they're making so that the technology continues to evolve and get, maybe not smarter, because it's not a real, thing with a brain. It's just a computer system, but to, I guess, figure out how to solve those problems quicker, or, get the data to the customer faster and more accurately with less mistakes. And so you have real people helping train these AI. So there's a lot of jobs out there for AI. Same thing with robotics. There's a lot of, opportunities now. If you're somebody who's looking for a job on the market for many different things, even if you have a job that's not in technology, your job might be able to work with the AI companies. And like we just saw with that one proofreader, that's a person who just, reads over stuff that's written and make sure that the grammar is correct and punctuation, all that stuff. That's a job that's not a tech job, but it's working with that AI company. So, there are jobs out there that are, have nothing to do with AI technology, but are, working hand in hand with them. So, if you're the type of person that's looking for a job out there, uh, you know, maybe one industry that you're working in now is sort of fizzling out. Look for jobs that you might qualify for in the AI industry. But there's a lot of different things going on with AI. There's a lot of companies working on, AI stuff. It is definitely evolving into an industry that is going to definitely replace some industries and companies that we have now. It's going to change the landscape of the market for sure, but it's also going to make things better and faster in many ways. I always stress, just don't let it be your only go-to and let the AI think for you. You should be the one that is using the AI as a tool to get the information quicker, but always double check it. Make sure it's correct. Don't just blindly believe it. And because that's how we get into that idiocracy state, like I said, where we just start letting the machines tell us what to think and do, and then we follow orders versus us using the machines for our advantage. But sometimes you're going to get information that you maybe can't fact check right away, or it's not totally clear, and you could just take that as, okay, I got this from the AI. It told me this. I'm not totally sold on it, but I read it, I heard it. I'll just leave it in the back of my mind. Now we're going to take a look at so I asked ChatGPT to tell me what are some signs that a video was made by AI, because this is a big thing that I think is happening, not just in what I'm about to show you, but all over social media. I'm seeing a lot of videos that are definitely made by AI. And there are people that are believing that either that person is a real person or that story is real or many other things. And, even the visuals of what they're seeing, they believe are real. And I could see this being a huge problem in the future as this continues to evolve, where people are going to have a hard time telling the difference between reality and what's fake AI. And there's definitely gonna, because there's always an equal and opposite reaction to an action. So there's gonna be safeguards that pop up that we do, that we personally partake in to ensure that, hey, this is legitimately me, or I legitimately said this. And we're definitely gonna have to do this with like politicians and people of, high authority in our society. to confirm that, decisions are not made from somebody hearing it from AI by mistake. But this is going to be something that continues to get worse if people are not aware of it and constantly being mindful about it, mindful about what they're watching, what they're reading, and where they're getting their information from. But I asked ChatGPT, but because I thought I will have the AI tell me what the AI itself does to know, for the audience to know what to look out for. So there are a lot of fake videos on the internet, and there are videos that are created by AI. Now, sometimes people are using AI because they don't want to appear on camera, and that's understandable to a point, but it raises questions about certain types of videos because, and we'll get into that in a moment, but if you're sharing, let's say, your testimony about something, why would you have it fake computer generated with a fake visual of a person that doesn't actually exist, and they're telling quote unquote your story, but uh, in a very robotic and unnatural way if your story was true. So we'll get into that in a moment, but this is some of what ChatGPT had to say. Natural speech or voice patterns, which we're going to see in the video that I'm going to show you. And tonality, inflection on certain, words and the way that the story is told is something that the AI definitely still struggles with that humans do differently, where you put emphasis on certain words, or when you're telling a story, you sort of, just explain it in a way that has a tonality behind it where it's compelling or it's conveying a certain type of response or emotion from the person you're telling it to that you're looking for, even if it's subconsciously. The AI still doesn't really know how to do this because it doesn't really totally understand tonality, although I think it is getting a little bit better. But that is a telltale sign of a video that is created by AI and is not real. Another one is inconsistent or unrealistic visuals, you know, faces or hands. Well, this is early on when AI was just getting started. It was all over the internet that they would like make mistakes and put like 6 or 7 fingers on a hand, or somebody would be missing a leg, and it was so clearly AI. But now they're getting better. I haven't seen that as much in a lot of the newer videos, but this is an interesting one. Inconsistent blinking. That's a good specific thing to look for because yeah, there are some people that blink weird, but for the most part, people tend to blink in a rhythm that is consistent because that's how they blink. And if it's inconsistent, then it would make sense that it's possible that's AI. Backgrounds may glitch or blur. Avatars may lack fine micro expressions or appear overly stiff or too perfect. That's a big one. Is when you look at the AI speak, you can see that their faces don't move the way that a human's face does. And it's funny because a lot of the times when they're telling a story with certain emotion, you would expect them to make certain facial expressions that go with that. But a lot of the times they don't. And in society, if that was a real person, we would either consider them a psychopath or we would say that it's not real, it's AI. And that's exactly another good telltale sign. Generic or repetitive script. That's another great thing we're going to take a look at in a moment. Repetitive phrases, overly formal language, or vague generalizations. Too fast production or high volume. Channels that upload daily or multiple videos per day, especially similar titles, thumbnails. Yes, so that's just a quantity thing where they're just pumping out a lot of the same to get views and continue to grow the audience, stimulate the algorithm. Something that I'm avoiding doing now with AI, but is doing too much content because I also don't want to, you know, put out content for the sake of just putting out content to continue to have people watch my content over another channels. To me, it doesn't seem authentic, it doesn't seem original, and it doesn't seem like part of what I'm looking to do here is just truly be authentic and truly put out content that is, in alignment with everything that I'm trying to convey and my morals and values. So that's why I only put out about 1 or 2 videos a week and a bunch of the short clips just to, circulate those. But I try not to overdo it, although I'm definitely going to work on at some point putting together more videos per week just so that you know, it's not just one a week because that seems like a little not enough. But I'm gonna work on that over time. But I also try to put out quality stuff over quantity. I don't want to make videos just for the sake of making videos. I want to make videos that have substance behind them and hopefully do things that not as many people, if any, are doing so that it is unique and original. No real world attribution or source, citing credible sources, interviews, or behind the scenes. Then you can even use some tools to detect if it's a fake video or not. I actually am trying to use this one. It's a little slow, but it seems interesting. AI or not, where you can actually upload a video or a picture and see it'll tell you whether or not it was generated by AI. Now, I don't know if it works or how accurate it is, but it seems interesting. If you ever have a chance to play around with it, feel free to let me know if it worked for you. Put it in the comments. Comments and community feedback. Sometimes people will call out in the comments AI. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll be wrong and they'll think it's AI. So that's not always the most accurate thing. But a combination of all these things makes sense to me. So we'll take a look at a video now of a category of the internet of, especially podcasting and things like that and the new media. Uh, I've done some in the past on this podcast of people who have near death experiences and they tell their testimony as to whether or not they went to heaven or hell or whatever happened to them when they died. And it's something that's been growing over the last few years of people. It's like an explosion of people who it almost seems that way because of the internet. I didn't realize how many people have had these throughout time. Obviously, there's some instances in the Bible and throughout history, there's definitely some things, some stories people have given their testimony. I think with the invention of the internet and especially social media, it's gotten a lot easier for people to put their testimony out there to the world now versus just maybe the one person you knew growing up who said that happened to them. So now that it's more popular, there's also going to always be the knockoffs that come out that try to mimic that for greed, for monetary gain. And it seems like that's what's happening now with some of these videos online. The good thing is, I think YouTube put out a new policy where they said they're not going to be allowing people who use AI to monetize anymore because they don't want them just cranking out videos with, AI and there's no authenticity, and then they're paying them for that. So they'll still be able to post online, and especially on, major website like YouTube. But I don't think they're going to be making as much money anymore going that direction, at least with YouTube. So it might not happen as much. It might start to die off, but a lot of times people look at views as currency and they don't care so much about the monetization because they figure they could always grow their audience and then sell their audience in some other way where they could monetize them through merch or something like that that has nothing to do with YouTube monetization. But I did read something about that. I think that is something that YouTube implemented already. But let's take a look at one of the videos now. Now we're not going to watch the whole video because so these videos are a little long and I don't want to do that much on here, but we're going to take a look at, I think 1 or 2. I'm going to try and do 2 where we'll just do a couple minutes of each just to see if some of these clues that ChatGPT told us about are in these videos. But I looked at these videos. They look like AI to me. You can't tell 100% sure just by looking at YouTube, and they don't really, to my knowledge, at least at this time, whether or not a video was made by AI, because that's an option that you have to check off on the back end, whether or not you're using AI. So I don't think YouTube has a way to know for sure and force you to admit it, but you can voluntarily if you want. Not everybody does because they want people to believe these things are real. So this is one of a woman who allegedly was recently a the Texas flood that happened not too long ago. Apparently, she was a victim, died, and then Jesus showed her what's coming in America. And that's another thing too. It's more than just the NDE genre. It's also a genre of people that are prophets or false prophets, where they're coming out with these videos saying, I saw the future of this and that, and end times and the rapture, and what's coming in a week or a month. And I've seen some people's videos that are compelling to me, where I've watched them and I said, this has credibility. It's a possibility this person is actually a prophet and is getting this information from God for some reason to warn maybe the people. And then I've seen a bunch of videos where I thought this seems like a scam, and I will just take note of it and then wait for that event to either happen or not happen. And then if that didn't happen, that tells me that person either was a liar and they were just making it up for, views and clicks and things like that, or, God wasn't really speaking to them or they didn't hear the message correctly. But if it's an isolated incident and they're just wrong about that one thing, not a big deal. If I see a track record of them constantly getting it wrong, then I know that they're BS and they're just, trying to grow their audience by jumping onto this bandwagon now of like this prophetic category. So this seems like a combination of two. It's an NDE and also here's what's coming soon prophecy type of thing. So we'll take a quick look at this video now.
My name is Katie. I'm 38 years old. And on May 17th, 2024, I drowned in the floodwaters that took my home. I've lived in Texas my whole life. I'm a mom to a sweet girl, Lily, who just turned
Now,
9.
so right away, just from looking at the initial first couple of seconds of her talking, to me that's so clearly an AI. It doesn't look like a real person. It looks robotic, and it looks like there's also that's the thing too. Like I know this from film. When you record on a camera, there's like amount of frames per second that are recorded, and typically it's 24 frames per second with like a good camera at a movie type pacing, and the human eye also records visuals in a certain amount of frames per second, right? We do the exact same thing. We register what we're seeing at a certain speed. So when you when you speak to a person and you see them move and you see them talk, they're moving and everything at a certain amount of speed, and then your eye and brain is also recording that and registering it internally as well at a similar speed that syncs with that. Cameras do it at a different speed, and when you're not even using cameras, it's all computer generated. It's a different speed also. So that's another telltale sign for me that ChatGPT didn't mention is if the speed is off. Now, obviously, you can speed up videos now on YouTube to watch them at a faster pace to be able to see them quicker and get through them faster. But if it's set at a normal pace, it should be at that normal pace. But when it's a little bit too quick or a little bit too slow, that also tells me it's probably computer generated, or the person uploaded it at a speed that was different than the normal speed. But that's just another telltale sign for me that it could be fake. This person seemed like they're talking at a very unusual pacing, and to me that's another giveaway sign, but also their facial expressions seemed weird. Then we go from them sitting and talking to the camera and jump into this whole segment of the video of like a recreation. Like when you used to see the unsolved mysteries and they would a person would talk on camera and then they'd jump over and it would be all reenactment of what that person went through. This seems like that as well. It's like a fake reenactment of this person's story. Now if a person's giving a ND testimony and it's real, there will be no reenactment because it already happened. There will be no like video footage of that event because it already happened. The only way to do that is to do a reenactment. But Leah, let's take a look at this.
Work part-time at the local library. My husband, Brandon, is a good man, a high school football coach. Our life was normal. It was filled with Friday night games, church on Sunday, arguments over what to watch on TV, and the constant worry about the bills. We weren't rich, but we had enough. We had love. I never expected anything crazy to happen to me. I was just a mom, a wife, living a small, quiet life in a town most people have never heard of. The rain had been falling for 3 days straight. It wasn't just rain, it was a wall of water that just wouldn't stop. The news called it a once-in-a-generation flood. For us, it was the end of our world. The creek behind our neighborhood, the one Lily and I would skip stones across in the summer, had turned into a raging, angry river. That morning, the evacuation order came. We were trying to grab things: photo albums, Lily's baby blanket, the important papers. The water was already at our ankles, then our knees. It was cold and muddy, and it smelled like wet earth and fear. Brandon was trying to get the truck started, but
Yeah, so that as well. It seems like they wrote it in a way where it's supposed to be compelling, and they're using, like they're adding details to the story to make it sound like a legitimate story. Because again, what's the old adage is that like if you want to tell a good lie, add a lot of details because it seems more real. But some of the some of the words that they're using, it seems embellished. It seems a little bit like a scripted story that, maybe would work for like a movie or a TV show because that's fake. But this is supposed to be a person's real testimony, and to me, it just screams fake. It just screams like the whole thing is fake. So we'll watch a couple more minutes, maybe like a minute of it.
too fast. Katie, we have to go now, he screamed. He had Lily in his arms. She was crying.
Yeah, see something like that too. He screamed. That's how you write a book. When you write a book, you see it says, like just the way when you read a book, it's always like in the third person of somebody telling it on behalf of the characters in the book. That's what this sounds like. It sounds like a script and a story, and there's characters, not a person's individual testimony.
Buried in his shoulder. I was grabbing our cat Patches, trying to stuff him into a carrier.
Hitting your goals has nothing to do with discipline. The real culprit is friction, and it slowly erodes your progress. Unlike what most people believe, it isn't because
But the water surged. A wave, dark and powerful, slammed through our living room window, shattering the glass. It knocked me off my feet. I remember the shock of the cold, the force of it. It was like being hit by a car. I went under. Everything was a blur of brown water, debris, and chaos. I couldn't tell which way was up. My lungs burned. I fought, I kicked, but the current was too strong.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, this just screams a scripted thing. It's fake. It's not real. And I think the whole thing is AI. I don't even think the person in the beginning is a real person. Pretty sure that's AI too. So if you're the type of person that believes these NDEs and you've heard these testimonies before and you believe in God and Christ and all that stuff, just be aware that there are these fake ones that exist where people are apparently now making up entire NDE stories and including Jesus in them, which to me is sort of sacrilegious and, you know, might even be blasphemy. But they're making up this whole thing and they're maybe monetizing and making money from this lie. So beware that these type of things exist. But I'm going to show you one more just to, show you it's not an isolated event, that other people are doing this. And this channel is, I guess it says Second Life. So we're going to go to a different channel now, and this one's called Hidden Bible Secrets. So it is two different channels. It is two different things. I mean, as far as I know, it could all be the same company. Who knows? But it's a completely different thing, and completely different story, completely different character. Now this is a guy instead of a girl. Let's take a look at this.
I didn't think a tattoo could lead to something like this, but then again, I didn't expect to die either. I was 34 years old, not
Okay, so now there seems to be some sort of symmetry here where at the beginning starts with a video of a person, so it looks like a real person giving their testimony. Then it cuts away to a bunch of visuals, which, tells me there's some sort of maybe blueprint that these people are all using to do the same thing. Crank out a bunch of fake NDE stories, put it out there, lie about God, and then mislead the people with whatever their story is, and also maybe monetize on top of it.
somewhere in between. I'd been a Christian for most of my adult life. I loved Jesus. I read my Bible, went to church, served in ministry, and yes, I had tattoos, 5 of them to be exact. Each one had a meaning. The dove on my forearm was for peace, the crown on my shoulder to remind me of my identity in Christ. The Hebrew word hesed across my ribs, God's covenant love. None of them were demonic. None of them were meaningless. They were my testimony in ink. That's what I used to call them. I even had scripture to back it up.
Now, this one's a little bit better, but you could still hear that the person or the AI is reading a script, and it's very much told as a story rather than a testimony, which would sound different. And a lot of times you'll hear this too with people who give testimonies. They'll tell a part of the story and then they'll go back, they'll backtrack because they have to add in details that they forgot and they just remembered because now they're talking about it in that moment. And so it's a little bit of they're circling around the story and adding in details along the way to complete the picture. And this seems very much like a strict, direct script.
At the heart, I'd say we're under grace, not law. This isn't Leviticus anymore. And people would nod. Some would even ask where I got them done. I didn't think I was doing anything
That's such a movie line. This isn't Leviticus anymore. That's such a way that it would be written for a script.
wrong until the night I died. It happened without warning. One moment I was getting out of the shower, drying off like any normal evening. The next, my chest tightened like someone had wrapped a band of steel around it. I gasped, staggered, dropped to my knees. I remember thinking, this is probably just stress, but then my arms went numb, and then everything went black, except it didn't. I was still conscious, just not in my body. I was floating, weightless, watching the room from above. I saw myself lying there, one hand still clutching the towel, my phone buzzing on the nightstand, unanswered. I should have panicked, but I didn't. Something was pulling me upward, something I couldn't see but couldn't resist either. Light surrounded me, not harsh, not artificial. It felt alive, it drew me in, and I let it. That's when I knew I had.
What happens inside your brain?
Yeah, so there's a lot of filler words, there's a lot of descriptive words. It just seems very, very fake and scripted to me and does not seem genuine at all because the person is not sitting in front of the camera, it's not a real person. They're not willing to put themselves out there along with their testimony. And if they were really compelled by God, like many of these people that I've seen, they would probably feel compelled to do that, to honestly be on camera and put themselves out there along with their testimony so that the people know that it's authentic. But yeah, this pretty much seems fake to me. You can look at videos like this yourself online, probably just like search AI or NDE or something. But also the way that it's written too, it seems very clickbaity. Like just the way it's written. I died, and what Jesus showed me about tattoos will shock capital every Christian, and then a dash NDE. So it's like putting it into a category. Just seems very planned and executed in a way where they're clearly trying to jump on the bandwagon of this whole NDE community. But they must be doing pretty good because they've got almost 5,000 subscribers and almost 500,000 views, and this video has only been out for 3 weeks. So yeah, it seems like it's working. Some people are buying into this, and I get more concerned not so much with the younger generation because they're a little bit more savvy to this stuff. They're tech savvy, especially the older generations, like the baby boomers that are waking up to a lot of this stuff now. And you see more and more of them seem to be getting in alignment with God because I guess they're at an older age in their life. And maybe that's, they feel like they've, given this some serious thought as to why they're here. But they're the type that are not as tech savvy as the younger generations, and they're the type that are probably more likely to get duped into believing this stuff. So, if you are a boomer out there, just be weary that, um, some of these videos might be fake. Don't believe into what they say, and don't take it as, biblical scripture that now you're going to go and live your life by whatever you heard on this because it's clearly fake. So just something to think about. There are a lot of fake videos out there. There's a lot of stuff that I could see circulating on social media that even sometimes people send me. And they're like, oh, wow, did you see this? Check this out. Look at this. And I look at it and I'm like, I'm sure this whole video is fake. Pretty sure the entire thing is fake. Everything you're seeing in the video, whether it's a car driving on the highway and it crashes or a missile going off from all the governments bombing this country and so many other things, I'm pretty sure a lot of that stuff is fake and people are buying into it and believing it. And the worst part is they're going to end up reacting to it. They're going to end up, doing crazy and stupid things all for a video that was completely made up. So this is definitely going to become a problem bigger and bigger as time goes on because there's just going to be so much of this fake content coming out that it's going to be hard to keep track of what's real and what's fake. My best advice would be don't react to any of it. Just leave it be, see it, take it in, and then move on with your life. And if it's something that actually is real, it will genuinely affect you, and then you'll deal with it in that moment. But if you can't prove it and you can't see it, it's probably not real, or it just doesn't concern you. So the last thing we're going to look at here is the robot part, which I think ties into this. But we're going to take a look at what's going on with the dating scene right now. So this is an article from Psychology Today. It's a big magazine back in the day. It's internet websites, big now. Probably one of the main go-to for psychology, people in the psychology field. Marriage rates are down for young people. U.S. Census Bureau and Pew Research document that 25% of 40-year-old Americans have never been married. So a quarter of all of the 40-year-olds in America have never been married. I don't think that's ever happened in American history to be 40 and not married at that significant amount of the population. That's a lot. That's 1/4 of every 40-year-old. Those are crazy numbers. And in 1980, that figure was 6%. So it literally went up 4 times since just 1980, 40 years ago, 45 years ago. But that's unbelievable. And clearly there's something wrong. Clearly there's something happening here where it's a combination of a couple things. Probably a combination of a lot of women in the workforce, especially born during that generation, Gen X and Gen Y, the millennials, were told to go to college, get a degree, get a career, and a lot of them just shelved their romantic life and starting a family for way too long. And then for the women especially, they got past a certain age where maybe they were no longer appealing to men to start a family with because they were so late in their life and their childbearing years that maybe those men just didn't see them as a great pick for that. They'd rather go with somebody a little bit younger, which is a reality. It is something that is true. Unfortunately, there is a biological clock. At some point, women can't continue to have children. And that is a factor that men do take into consideration at all ages. The divorce rate is up for people over the age 65. That's the boomers. And that makes perfect sense because they are the highest divorce rate generation in American history. And it would, just it's fitting for them that they just continue to get divorced or still maintain the highest numbers. It was 5.2% in 1990 and rose 15.2% in 2022, according to the National Center for Family and Marriage Research. Why is dating so difficult? Online dating pitfalls. 45% of single people have used online dating or dating apps in the past year. So that's something that we just talked about. Online dating and use of apps is growing, especially among youth. Online dating companies promise fulfilling contact with romantic mates, yet many people find that meetups are with people who are dedicated to remaining single. Also, another thing I would probably add is it's a lot more uncomfortable to see somebody online that has a profile photo and a bio, and then go take the chance of meeting up with them alone in person. Whereas if you're already out at a restaurant or a bar or the supermarket or library, whatever the hell it is, wherever you are in the world, maybe even just at work, you already see the person there in front of you, and there's no expectation of interest in dating or whatever. You build a connection with them first on a human level, and then if there's a chance to date and have a relationship that follows. This is more like spinning that and flipping it the other way, where your expectation is dating first, and then the meetup in person is now I'm going to meet them on a human level. It doesn't work that way. You have to meet them in physical a physical contact first in person on a human level with no expectation for dating, then if there's a spark of connection, it makes sense to move it to the next step in that phase. So I think the online dating thing is kind of flipped it backward. And that's probably part of the reason why it does not really work today. And it's not helping people actually get and stay in relationships. Only 10% of adults married or in serious relationships found each other online. So that makes sense because of everything I just said, but it also makes sense because the online thing in the grand scheme of things is still kind of new. It's only about 20, 30 years old. Really, really started becoming more popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, not that long in terms of dating, which since the beginning of time people have been doing without technology. More than 44 million adults in the US engage in online dating. Cruise it all found that 65% of people using dating apps are not single, but married or in long-term relationships. Yeah, that's another thing too. The dating apps are really not for finding a suitable mate and dating and things like that, which they claim to be. It's really for a lot of people, it's a hookup app to be able to, go hook up with a person, have a one night stand and move on. Or it's for even more nefarious things like the article just said of people who are married and who are looking to have an affair and do it in a quick and convenient way without having to go out and, find somebody. But it seems like the apps are being used more for strictly just sexual relationships than what their purpose was originally sold as dating. Online dating is convenient and growing rapidly. There's some concern that use of dating apps can be addictive. Knudo Lee, Wan, and Black found compulsive use of dating apps among these scoring high in social anxiety, and loneliness. Sorry, it's always the lights are in my eyes. It's very hard to read when you have a bunch of lights. Online dating puts the focus on external characteristics of possible mates, physical looks, job, residence, and educational attainments. Such focus feeds partner pickiness and the notion one can pick a mate satisfactorily based on external, fixed, and often visual characteristics. Well, I mean, that's what it's doing. It's just basically putting all of, you know, credentials on like a scorecard and putting it out in the world and seeing, who matches or who bites, but it's not really letting them see you as a human being. I see, and I don't know if they do this today on dating apps. I don't know. I really have never used one, but I see this as maybe being something down the road if it's not already being done now, where it's a lot more video oriented. And I don't know how many people want to get on camera and do that, but if they can put a photo of themselves up, they could probably do that. Where it's probably going to be a lot more like FaceTime combined with, YouTube or TikTok or whatever, where people are posting videos and stuff about them so that the person that's looking at them can see them in a physical setting and see how they look, see how they act, see how they operate, and not just look at a photo or whatever. That will probably be more of what happens with these dating apps in the future to make it more personable and let you really see the person in society, before you actually meet them in person. You're not just looking at a photo on a scorecard. But I don't know if they're already doing that. I just imagine that's where it would evolve to. But as you can see, a lot of people are having trouble today in dating and marriage. And, I think a lot of it, like I said, is because people are looking to have this picture perfect person for them, but they themselves are not perfect. You know, here's the here's the true secret, I think, to and this isn't just my opinion, but I'm sure there are a lot of other ones, but I'd say this is the main thing for finding a person that you really want to be with and spend a life with starts with you. If you really want to find a great person, you have to first be great. If you really want to find somebody that you like and checks off a lot of your boxes, you got to also check off their boxes. You don't even know what their boxes are yet. So the best way to deal with that is work on yourself, work on your character, work on refining who you are as a person and becoming the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And the person that you're meant to be with, you'll naturally be, they'll naturally gravitate to you, and you will find a relationship with the right person because you're already the best version of yourself. So who you become in that not perfect but better state is going to be give you the best chance of finding somebody that aligns with you and that likes you for who you are in your in that moment, like who you truly are versus who you're trying to sell yourself as online. So best advice, and this goes for really anything. This goes for anything in life. Just work on being your best self. Work on being the best version of yourself in whatever capacity, whether it's working on your health, overall health, staying healthy, staying looking well. And it doesn't always mean vain looking good, but looking well, looking healthy and vibrant, not just artificial fake looks. Working on your, character as a person, your morals and values, standing to those, having principles, and then also working on other factors of your life, your career, your financial stability. If you're a guy, if you're a woman, factors that, matter to men, like, being good at certain things that men value, being a wonderful homemaker, being a wonderful potential mother and wife, things like that are important, and think about ways that you can, you know, show that you are that person because you can become that person or you are that person now, not just do it because you're trying to impress somebody and then that's not who you truly are. Become that person, even if you're not now, because that's going to give you, like I said, the best chance of finding the right person to be with for the rest of your life. And marriage is not an easy thing. This is why there's so many people today that get divorced and that don't see it through. I mean, religion's one of the big main reasons. If you don't have God personally, I believe, in you don't have a relationship with God, you're not going to be able to have a successful marriage long term because, God invented marriage. But take that aside, you have to be able to stick out the marriage through the thick and the thin, the highs and the lows. And a lot of people love it when it's great and fun all the time, but when you go through difficult seasons in your life and in your marriage, they give up and they decide this isn't working. I'm going to go on to the next thing, and you keep chasing that perfect marriage or the perfect relationship. And it just doesn't exist. Nobody has ever had one, and you just have to come to terms with that. Your marriage is not going to be perfect. Your relationship's not going to be perfect, but if you can just decide that the person that you're with or that you eventually be with, you're willing to go all in on them in that relationship, in your relationship with God, then long term, I think it will work out. But a lot of people are very selfish today and they're just not willing to commit that much to somebody. And also, many people don't have a servant's mindset in that way where they're willing to, take care of the person that they love, go all in for them, and not always look at what they get out of everything. And also doing things for that person without expecting anything in return is another huge thing that will allow your relationship to endure long term. So the last thing we'll take a look at here is the birth rates declining in America due to this. And this to me is all a chain reaction. It's all tied in together. You have technology evolving, you have it consuming people's time and energy, and they're not going out in the world anymore and meeting people and having meaningful conversations. They're not building friendships with people. They're just looking for an immediate thing that is perfect from the beginning, just not the reality of life. Technology in so many ways has ruined relationships, but it's getting it's evolving even more and even faster with AI and robots. And now you're seeing marriage rates are declining and the birth rates subsequently because of that are declining as well, which we're looking at here. The US birth rate has indeed reached an all-time low at 1.6 children per woman, according to recent data from the CDC. This decline reflects the long-term trend in decreasing fertility rates over the past 2 decades. Now, there's two things with that. Number one is fertility rates, which completely understand, and I think a lot of it has to do with so many things that, not to get political in this episode, but the Trump administration, especially with RFK and the health, the Make America Healthy Again movement, are trying to reverse a lot of the damage that has been done to the younger generations today, where the fertility rates are very low. You have a lot of young people today, a lot, that are way too young and way too at an age where it should be very easy to conceive, are going to fertility doctors, spending all this money on, I think it's called IVF, and these different procedures that try and, you know, make them, the woman get pregnant, and a lot of failed attempts, thousands of dollars wasted because it didn't work. And this has happened to many, many women out there, as in these young ages, these 30s, sometimes 40s, but mostly 20s and 30s, which is very, very weird because back in the day, it was not that common. I mean, people were able to conceive. Every once in a while, there was somebody who had an issue, but, you know, most people were able to just conceive by being together. And you have a lot of people today that are suffering from these things, and a lot of it's due to the health, the poor diet in America, the chemicals in the food, the genetically modified stuff, but the overall health and wellness. I mean, there's so many guys today that have very low testosterone, very, very large stomachs, and rarely do you find people, unless they're, you know, obsessed with the gym and exercising and taking care of themselves, do they have flat stomachs, let alone a six pack? But it's a lot of people today are out of shape. They're just not, healthy the way that they need to be in order for their bodies to be in a position to be able to conceive. But the birth rate's down. The second part of that is the birth rate's at 1.6, which is actually horrible because you need the birth rate to be at a 2 just to be able to replace the society, right? So birth rates at a 2, you have a child each to replace the husband and the wife, the father and the mother. So now you're replacing those two people when they die with new two people, and society will continue at that exact same rate. But in order to increase the population, you need at least 3. So that doesn't work unless at a bare minimum every couple has 2 kids just to at least replace themselves. And then to grow the population, you got to get to 3 plus kids. And people don't see this as a big deal, but this is a big deal because this is the beginning of an extinction. If the population continues to, let's say everybody only had 1 kid, an only child, the population would shrink so much over time. Eventually, that would be like a depopulation thing, and society would be a lot smaller. There'd be less people, there'd be less workers, we would get less things done, we would grow at a slower rate technologically and so many other things, and we just would not be, especially in America, the great nation that we are today. So this doesn't work. You have to have at least 3 kids to continue to grow and thrive the human population in the world. And this is at 1.59 right now. This figure reflects a continuing trend of declining fertility rates in the country. The fertility rate has been decreasing for nearly 2 decades. In the early 1960s, the rate was 3.5, exactly, which is what you need. The rate dropped, and when they say 3.5, they mean some people had 3 kids, some people had 4. The average is 3.5. Nobody has half a kid, but that's just how they do the numbers. The rate dropped by to 1.7 by 1976 and saw a brief increase to 2.1 in 2007. And that makes sense because if you look at the 70s during that time, that was a depression period. If you look at 2007, that was right before the housing market crash when the economy was booming, things were great, people were more financially stable, or at least they thought they were. So they were in better positions. They felt more comfortable, so they ended up having more kids. But it was only for a brief window. The fertility rate decreased by 3% from 2022 to 2023. 2023, there were about 3.59 million births recorded, a decline from the previous year. So it's been going down for a while now. And what I think the combination, if I look at the big picture of all these things, is I think the combination looks like this. If we don't do something about this as a society in America, where people get married and have 3 or more kids, not only is the population going to decline rapidly as we move forward and things are going to get worse in America and the world, but you're going to see it get even worse if this happens. And this is something that I think about as a huge possibility based on the trajectory of the way things are going now, is that AI is going to continue to grow and evolve. Robots are going to continue to be a very big part of society. And we'll take a quick look at a video of some robot stuff now, just to quickly see what some of the evolutions are. So this is just a post I saw randomly. It's not anybody I know or follow, but robots are replacing humans faster than you think. Here are 10 real examples. So allegedly they're real. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But this is a robot that is like a new tow truck. Literally slides underneath the car and tows it away. No more need for a gigantic tow truck. And it's literally able to do like a 360 spin. That's insane. So this is a robot working in a factory. Now these are more human looking robots, and they're probably going to be filled in the Amazon warehouses and all the warehouses across the country, taking a lot of those warehouse jobs and, doing a lot of the sorting and the packaging and, shipping of products. This is a robot that, basically does perfect concrete, and this might possibly replace many contractors out there that work in concrete and things like that. And you'll probably have somebody that's a supervisor that's gonna have to, supervise the robot, but for the most part, are not able to just do concrete, but tiles as well. And you have robots cooking in looks like a fast food restaurant. So obviously, I think McDonald's already said that they're doing this. They're having robots come in and do some stuff, but they're gonna replace a lot of, um, people in these blue collar and entry level jobs, and you have a robot that basically is probably going to cook food to perfection the same exact way each time, every time, very uniform, which is going to be even better than a chef. I don't even know if this one's real. It looks a little animated, but I've seen these before where they look like dogs and they are able to run, jump, and climb like that. So it's possible that they might even replace transportation methods. Seems very Star Wars-esque. So this one looks like it's doing some sort of painting or something with the pavement where it creates directional arrows. This one is a cameraman. So now they can actually replace, cameramen and people in the film industry that you would think would have to be a human because of the art value of it. But apparently the robots replacing the cameraman now. And probably a lot steadier than a human. And now these are going to be allegedly firemen robots that they send in to extinguish fires without risking the lives of a fireman. So this might put a lot of firemen out of work. And also, if they could withstand the heat more than a human, they could stay in there a lot longer and put out the fire directly, which they might be more efficient than firemen. This one is something so silly and simple. It's really more of a machine than a robot, but it is technically a robot. Just card dealer, but look how perfectly he gets the cards in the pile, you know? So might replace dealers at a casino. And this one pumps your gas. Another thing that the younger generation is going to get so used to, they're not even going to know how to pump their own gas anymore. And then this last one is just some ad. So as you can see, those are just some examples of robots, but they are coming, they are here, and they are definitely growing and evolving in our economy. And they're going to continue to be a big part of our future. And yeah, they're probably going to put some people out of work in those industries, but the people will find other jobs in new industries that pop up and new job types that are just created. I've even been on those job websites just to do some research for this and saw some new titles for positions that I've never even heard of. But it looks like those are becoming part of the new economy that is, early, but those will probably be some of the jobs that people gravitate to when they lose their current jobs to a robot. But what I see happening is the robots entering the dating scene, which is crazy enough, to where it's a weird thing because it's not going to really give you what you want, but I have a feeling the younger people are going to do this because they're very much immersed in technology and have been since birth, basically, at this point, where some people are going to end up buying robots to have a relationship with. Now, I'm not talking about anything sexual. I'm just talking about the companionship of another human of the opposite gender-ish, um, to be with them. And you're going to see these women who are in their 40s, never married because they chose a career or something else, or they've just been too picky. They didn't want, a man that didn't check every single box of theirs off. And they are going to, the men are saying at this point, though, they have the leverage because men don't have an alternative to women. It's either marry a woman or date a woman or just be alone. With robots and AI, you're going to see they're going to fuse the two, and AI is going to be the brain of the robot, and the body is going to be the robot, and they're going to be able to have conversations like in the movies, like in these weird tech movies. But they're going to be able to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, and the robot's going to look just like a girl and sit next to the guy, and he has a good job, has money, can't get a girl, and the girls don't want him, and he's going to have a robot and he's going to have a companion that he could talk to, and the AI brain is gonna search the things that he's talking about on the internet and then converse back with him with answers. And for him, it's gonna be the best thing he can get to a relationship because he's gonna be able to communicate and talk without arguing, without disagreeing, without all these things that come with a relationship, a real human. And this looks like the trajectory of where society might be going to some degree, where men and women alike are both going to be, since they're already having issues on the dating scene and committing to each other and getting married and staying in marriages and not getting divorced, it only makes sense that at some point people are going to gravitate towards being with a robot that seems very real, like in these sci-fi movies. And they're going to have fake relationships with those people, and that will be the beginning of the end of, you know, real authentic marriages in this world and true relationships between humans. It seems like that's where things are headed. I know it sounds sci-fi, and I know it sounds like something that's far-fetched because we're here now, but um, you'd be surprised what happens in 10, 20, 30 years. Life moves fast, and it moves even quicker the more quickly that technology advances. So if the birth rate's less than 2 now, what is it going to be like when people are marrying robots in the future and not having any kids, but instead just having a companion for the rest of their life that is this perfect companion that they made that checks all their boxes, just like they wish the real person did when they went on the dating app 20 years before that. So life is about to look very, very different in the future of this world, especially with AI and robots. And it's even going to be taking the dating scene and the marriage scene by storm. So we're in for weird times. It's going to be very interesting and uncomfortable, but we need to get back to God. We need to get back to true relationships. We need to get back to humility. We need to get back to marriages that last and people commit to long term and stick it through thick or thin. And we need to get back to people having big families again, people creating children and having 3, 4, 5 kids again and growing the mankind and continuing the human race. So I think that's part of what the future holds. Do we split one way and go down this tech robot future with a lot of weird stuff? Or do we go down the other path of turning back to God, getting back to America and the world thriving again with humanity, dignity, families, and lots of children, getting back to the things that really matter? But long-winded, pretty long episode, a lot of context there. Just wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this whole AI thing and robot thing because I think it's affecting more than just jobs. And I think it's affecting more than just social media. I think it's going to have a major impact on our lives as a whole. And I think we saw some of that today. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Like I always say, definitely helps the channel to continue to grow. And more importantly, share some of the short clips if you don't want to share a full video with somebody that you think the message in that clip would be for them, or something interesting that you think they might like. Share it, helps the channel grow. Stay tuned for the ad at the end of the video. A lot of, interesting and great products that we have, especially my children's book, which I wrote. It's available right now on all the major platforms, and makes a great gift, especially with the holidays coming up towards the end of this year. A great thing to maybe keep for that time when you want to start getting people gifts for the holidays. Um, got the apparel shop. Percentage of our profits go to charities, so it's a great way to help causes that maybe you believe in, and to donate to charity in a way that maybe if you don't get enough time to do that, or you don't really give to charities often, this is a way to do that. And also our Amazon storefront, which has a bunch of products that we believe in, especially the health stuff on there, or within the health categories. A lot of great products on there that we use, and some sales going on right now. So that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son, and it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throw in your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies. and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future, and I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.